Backstage.
I know I'm taking.
I ain't finna tell y'all how I got away with this shit.
If I'm more right, that's good business. She look good, but hang with dumb bitches. Tell her I'm way too fly for one sister. And then she leave a priest, I won't miss her. Won't put a ring around it. Oh, no. Bitch, you for the street like basketball goes. I always knew she let that lane hit her. Won't get a sick from me, I ain't simple. Bitch, now I ain't gonna work it out. I ain't regular out. Now I ain't gonna work it out. I ain't regular out. You civilian out. Nah, failure out. I ain't gonna work it out. Cause I ain't regular out. I ain't regular out. You's a regular out. Took that bitch back. And she done fed you out. Look how you living out. You look scary out. Can't fuck that bitch right. Cause she be getting nailed out. You won't forgive her, ain't it? You wanna love her, don't you? Just know that love ain't for you. It's for the world, homie. I got some real homies. We don't pretend, homie. ISUPK, one West, we kicking field goals. Let that bitch lead, ho. She got them D's, though. With a little steak and ass pussy, she be going beast mode. She HIV, ho. You dirty ass skeet, ho. Don't get that shit up out your chest, bitch. Say what you gonna do now, what you gonna say now, what you gonna do to me? It is UPK, I'm shot too deep, it's better Google me. I put these girls all in my training camp like I relieve. I say what I do and I do what I say, bitch, what the fuck you mean? If I'm more right, that's good business. She look good, but hang with dumb bitches. Tell her I'm way too fly for one sister. And then she leave a priest, I won't miss her. Won't put a ring around it. Oh, no. Bitch, you for the street like basketball goes. I always knew she'd let that lane hit her. Won't get a cent from me, I ain't simple. Bitch, now I ain't gonna work it out. I ain't regular out. Now I ain't gonna work it out. I ain't regular out. You civilian out. Nah, failure out. I ain't gonna work it out. Cause I ain't regular out. I get paper, bro. Got my standards up. You a munchkin out. Catching these out. Check my favorite out. I'm a player out. These niggas top black. Take your lead out. You shouldn't be worried about these broke ass bitches. And don't compare yourself to silk ass niggas. Had to shine a lot of these desperate ass women. Cause they be tripping hard, acting like they different. But a bit be basic, bit be horn and bit be naked, drinking. Faking, stankin', the shame is dirty, mouth bit be faking. I don't get too fucks about you, I wouldn't have put no baby in you. Bit be saying they got that paper, look, they let me itch. Done caught the penalty, hit my energy, got me feeling me. Ice hitting on them, these diamond teeth that's into me. And I'm getting right and I'm stacking up and I'm getting to it. And these niggas hate but they can't touch cause I'm bulletproof. If I'm more right, that's good business. She look good but hang with dumb bitches. Tell her I'm way too fly for one sister. And then she leave a priest, I won't miss her. Won't put a ring around it. Oh, no. Bitch, you for the street like basketball goes. I always knew she'd let that lane hit her. Won't get a cent from me, I ain't simple. Bitch, now I ain't gonna work it out. I ain't regular out. Now I ain't gonna work it out. I ain't regular out. You civilian out. Nah, failure out. I ain't gonna work it out. Cause I ain't regular out.
Tell the goddamn love them AIDS damn dick, she love, nigga. Ain't no taking nothing back. Cause I ain't regular out. Backstage.
All right, mic check. Salakia, bear with me 1 second, Israel. It's gonna make sure our sound and picture is Tawab. Shalom, Israel, with the Israelite School, Universal Practical Knowledge, start out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commandant General Yohana. This is the Friday night Lashawan Qadash class. I mean, if the sound and picture is all good, you know what I mean, you tuned it in live, put a 1 in the chat. Bob Shah. We're gonna get started. Salakia. We can get started here in a second. Okay, give me 1 second. Mike. All right. All All right, sound like we all good. All right. Again, this is the Friday Night Lashawan Qadash class. Questions or comments, you go put them in the chat. We'll answer all your questions. You know what I mean? Uh, Again, we've been teaching Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans the truth according to the Bible since 1969. Something that your Christian pastors have been ill-equipped to do for a very long time. And now the Lord is exposing your Christian pastors. As a matter of fact, the Lord has been exposed your Christian pastors since, the COVID epidemic, the COVID pandemic, where, they claim to, they claim to be the so-called religious or the spiritual authority over Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. They claim to be the ones who are supposed to teach us the Bible and all those different things. They was hitting people with holy jackets, with magic jackets. Trying to they was faking like they was, they was faking like they was doing what the prophets have done in the past, which was raise the dead, make the blind see, make the lame walk, and all those different things. Just pretending like the Most High was talking to them, and all these different creepy, spooky things that they use to feed on the superstition of Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. To use that to rob them when. But then the COVID pandemic happened, and then we all saw in 4K that your Christian pastors are not who they said they were. You know what I mean? And that they are liars and that they are snakes and charlatans. You know what I mean? When they, when Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, all we needed was a home. You know what I mean? All we needed was a place to lay our head. All we needed was a roof over our head, somewhere that we could, because in that time, if you remember, brothers and sisters was getting evicted, and losing their jobs, losing their homes, and all of that. And all brothers and sisters needed was, a place to stay at least. In a hot meal or two. Now, if your Christian church was who they said that they was, that would be their time to shine. But what you saw was them close and lock the doors. They're mega churches that they begged, Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, they begged the poor of our people and urged us to put in that collection plate so that they can, get this building, so they can get their private jets, so they could do more work. Ain't that what they said? And then the pandemic hit, and them private jets and them big old buildings that you paid for, was no use to you. So the Most High has exposed your Christian pastors. You see Elon Musk throw up a Nazi salute. You see Donald Trump sicking ICE and the police on Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, mass deporting, mass incarcerating, and all those different things. You see even during the election where Kamala Harris, old videos of her resurfacing, talking about with the swipe of her pen, she gonna put you through hell in that court system, which we already should have known as Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Point is, we starting to see that the things that we've put our faith and we put our energy and time into as Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are failing us, and they have been failing us. But, the only thing that hasn't failed is the ISUPK. And that's what Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans need so that we can actually get up out of this hell. It's not going to be your money that gets you out of here. It's not going to be your career. It's not going to be your education. It's not going to be you joining the military. It's not going to be your ability to take life. It's not going to be none of those things. What's going to get us out of this hell is us coming back to our culture and identity as a people, so the Lord can be with us again. So that's what we do. That's what we do, Monday through, 7 days a week. And particularly to stay on topic, that's what we're doing every Friday, where we go into the linguistics part of getting our culture back so we can get our oppressors language out of our mouths. All right. So again, if you got any questions or comments throughout, you go ahead and ask them in the chat, or if you happen to be tuning in live in class, you can of course raise your hand and ask all your questions. And this is the time to do it as well. This is the time to get all your questions answered, and get the breakdowns. Salakia. And Salakia, just we're gonna be doing. I might be doing a couple mic checks just to make sure the sound and all of that is tore up throughout the class. So just bear with me as we go through it. Salakia. All right, with that, as usual, Friday night Lashawan Qadash class. We typically go into what we're gonna go over Sabbath service, which we pretty much do the same thing. The only difference between Lashawan Qadash class and Sabbath service is, well, there's many differences. The main difference is being Sabbath service. It's a service, so it doesn't really it's not really too many open windows to be able to ask your questions or make comments or things like that. We just read the Hebrew. We'll read the Hebrew straight through, and then we'll read the English straight through, and then the head priest will break down what we just read so that we can get a full 360 scope of what's going on in this history book called the Holy Bible, right? The history of Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, the separate history of Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. All right, and then Lashawan Qadash class, we kind of do the opposite. So we'll read it in the English so that we can get some context of what we're going to be reading in the Hebrew. All right, and so we're gonna do the same thing tonight. So we're gonna be able to, and then also Salakia during Friday night Lashawan Qadash class, there's plenty windows. That's what Lashawan Qadash class is for you to be able to ask your questions. So. Those are the main differences, but Lashawan Qadash class usually revolves around Sabbath service unless there are any questions or comments that take us off topic. And again, that's what this class is for. So if there's any questions or comments related to the Lashawan Qadash that might take us off the topic of whatever we're gonna go into on Sabbath service, that's absolutely fine. That's absolutely encouraged. But so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna read the English. We're gonna read the scriptures in the English so that we can get some context. And that context usually it helps prepare your mind for like what you're gonna see, right? So, for example, we in Exodus. Exodus is revolving around the Exodus, literally named after the Exodus of the Lord's chosen people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. So you're going to see, right now I believe we in the plagues. So you're going to see things like, you're going to see certain sight words like water. You're going to see nation. You're going to see you're going to see Israel. You're going to see Egypt. You're going to see Moses a lot. The name Moses in Hebrew. You're going to see the name Aaron a lot in the Hebrew. You're going to see water. You're going to see blood. You're going to see the names of the plagues and the nature of what was involved in each plague. And all of those words that you're going to see by reading it in the English, you'll be able to see these words in the English, and then you'll be able to go into your memory bank like, okay, the word water is here. I know the word for water is this. And the word for the word for Egypt is here, or Egypt is here. So I know in the Hebrew, I'm going to see the word for Hebrew, which is, or it's like the word for Egypt, which is this, and so on and so forth. So seeing them in English, again, is going to help you be able to identify these words in the Hebrew when you see them. All right. So that's what we're going to do. And let's go ahead and get started. You might, let me share my screen, enlarge my screen. I got Bible Hub open. You should already know at this point if you've been I'm not sure if you can see on the screen, but let me see. As a matter of fact, I know you can't see that link. Can't see the link on the but you just go to Bible Hub. You just go to Bible Hub, go to the interlinear portion, and then go to your book, chapter, and verse. All right. And that's how you're gonna be able to see this screen right here that you see on the that's how you're gonna be able to see so lock you. That's how you're gonna be able to see what we got on the screen right now. And that's what we're gonna be reading from. And this is an excellent tool for us to be able to use to be able to understand the Hebrew. So you'll be able to click the concordance code. It'll give you the root word. It'll give you a pseudo pronunciation. It's not the correct pronunciation, but it'll give you kind of a guide to how you would pronounce it. And then you would have to add the fundamentals, like for example, let's go here, Slovakia. Slovakia. For example, it's this Slovakia, whatever. This fake pronunciation, it says wayet. Now we know that there are no vowels like the E sound in the Lashawan Qadash. So the Lashawan Qadash characters are Abagada Hawaza Khata Yaka Lama Nasa I Patazakwa Rashata. So vowels like E, the E sound, the U sound, the U, the O sound, you know what I mean, aren't in the Lashawan Qadash. All right, so when you see this, then you automatically know that E sound isn't there. All right, so if you want to use this as a guide, you would just have to replace those vowels. But you know what I mean, that's only going to get you part of the way through the Lashawan Qadash. You're not going to be able to read the Lashawan Qadash using that. I'm just giving you an example of like when you first start out and you're struggling to pronounce the Lashawan Qadash. It's giving you some pointers because all of these tools or all of these resources are useful in one way or another. You got to kind of combine them, as well as being in class. Being in class will give you the truth. So when you see these things, you can kind of, you know what I mean, read between the lines and wade through what's real and what's untrue. And then your characters are here, and then the English translation will be down here in the red. All right. But and as we go through, I'll show you how to. If you're new to the class, I'll show you how to walk through. I'll show you how to walk through the Salakia. I'll show you how to walk through each resource and all of that, and how to use this as we go through, as always. All right. Let's see. Salakia, bear with me 1 second. All right, so we're gonna read it in the English first. Salakia, we're gonna read it in the English first. Get the context. We're gonna read a couple scriptures just to get the context. I'm gonna go a couple verses before and then a couple verses after. So we're gonna be starting in Exodus, the 8th chapter and the 6th verse. So let's start in Exodus, Salakia, Exodus 8. We'll start in the 4th verse, and then we're gonna read to the 8th verse. So Exodus 8 and 4, and the frog shall come up both on thee and upon thy people and upon thy servants. All right. So like we said before, this is of course the plagues. You know what I mean? That the Most High is, you know what I mean? At first he's threatening, you know what I mean? He's prophesying rather to Pharaoh that if he didn't let the children of Israel go, that these curses would come upon them, these plagues would come upon Egypt, you know what I mean, and vex them. And then, of course, the Most High hardened Pharaoh's heart because he wanted to destroy Egypt, ultimately. So he's prophesying that these things would happen, Pharaoh doesn't let the children of Israel go, so these things start to happen. So that's what you see here. All right. So verse 5, and the Lord spake unto Moses, say unto Aaron, stretch forth thine hand with thy rod over the streams, over the river, and over the ponds, and cause the frogs to come up upon the land of Egypt. 6, and Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt. 7, and the magicians did so with their enchantments, and brought up frogs upon the land of Egypt. 8, then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron and said, entreat the Lord that he may take away the frogs from me and from my people, and I will let the people go that they may do sacrifice unto the Lord. I mean, so what you're seeing is very heavy, because what you're seeing right now, what you reading in Exodus is exactly what you see going on in, you know what I mean, in America right now. America is modern day Egypt. So every day, you know what I mean, Mike, Salakia, Mike. What's going on? Mike. All right, we all good. Salakia. All right. Salakia, where was we at? But Salakia. So I was happy because what we see, Mike. Well, we going out to, you know what I mean, we going out to our people trying to gather ourselves together, and then we also expose the crimes of our oppressor. You know what I mean, and letting them know and warning them, because just like the Most High's heart and Pharaoh's heart, and for the purpose of destroying them, the Most High wants to destroy America. You know what I mean, that's why it's useless for, you know what I mean, all these brothers and sisters that want to try to unify, you know what I mean, Martin Luther King and people like that who want to try to unify Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to America. You know, I mean, that's why things like that are useless when you try to integrate yourself into their culture, because these people, like the scriptures say, you know what I mean, they like a deaf adder, you know what I mean, that stoppeth their ear, meaning they can't hear you. You know what I mean, an adder is a snake, a poisonous snake that just wants to kill. It just wants to take life. And that's your oppressor. You know what I mean? So it also says, who will pity a snake charmer, charming never so wisely. You know what I mean? We try to charm our oppressor. We try to, you know what I mean, love our oppressor and hug and hold our oppressor and sing for our oppressor, like them brothers did in Cincinnati after them, you know what I mean, after them Nazis got ran out of Lincoln Heights. You know what I mean? Uh, then the Christian church come out and do a march and sing and dance and all of that. You know what I mean? You try to charm your oppressor and try to, you know what I mean, charm your way into their society. It'll never work because at the end of the day, the Most High wants to destroy them. And that's exactly what you see in Exodus. You know what I mean? But it's lucky. But that's exactly what you're seeing right now in Exodus as we're reading through. All right. So we prophesying just for the sake of, you know what I mean, bringing our people together. And then when the time comes, your oppressor, you're going to watch your oppressor's kingdom fall like it is now. That's why you see, you know what I mean, people like Donald Trump, Elon Musk being puffed up. So like you. All right. Let's see. All right. Looks like we having some camera issues. So for, you know what I mean, let's see. So just for the sake of the class, you know what I mean, I would just keep Bible Hub up so we ain't got to keep on switching back and forth between cameras. You know what I mean? What you really need to see is what's on the screen anyway. You don't really need to see me. But anyway, moving on. So basically, that's the context of what we're looking at. You know what I mean? We're looking at these plagues being put on Egypt, just like you see the plagues being put on America. You know what I mean? The pandemic we talked about earlier, COVID, you know what I mean? That was just one of them. They had I think it was a monkeypox plague. They had the supers, I think it was super gonorrhea. You know what I mean, it was one of the plagues. Half of California, you know what I mean, Southern California was just on fire. The other half is, you know what I mean, going through a freeze. Those was plagues. You know what I mean? The earthquakes and the what else? Salakia. I know I'm missing a very important. Oh yeah, that's the one I'm missing. The planes. I believe it was like 80 something planes that had some malfunction or that crashed into one another. That, you know what I mean? Whatever the case is, that dropped up out of the sky. I believe the most recent one was in Canada, unless, you know what I mean, unless I'm missing one. But all of these things that you see happening, those are plagues, and very similar to what you see happening in Egypt, in Exodus. And also, you know what I mean, you also saw that Pharaoh's magicians mimicked what you know what I mean, what the Lord's prophets was doing. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what you see with your Christian pastors. But like we were saying before the pandemic, they were slapping people with jackets, holy jackets, you know what I mean, and all of that. They have somebody perfectly able-bodied come in a wheelchair, hit him with a holy jacket, and then he'll stand up and get to dancing around with you. Or you have somebody perfectly able-bodied, or they start to do all these different things, trying to mimic what the Lord's prophets have been able to do in times past. And you know what I mean, here in the ISUPK. You know what I mean? That's exactly what you're seeing again, what you're seeing right here in Exodus. All right. So point being, you know what I mean, if you in tune with what's going on around you, if you're in tune with what's going on around you today, you'll be able to see that we are walking on the pages of Exodus as we speak and as we read it tonight. But All right, with that being said, we'll go ahead. Just now that we got the context of what we're about to talk about, now we should be able to pick out some sight words. We'll be able to pick out some sight words as we go through the Hebrew. If you've been in class in the past, or if depending on your experience level, or if you don't recognize any sight words as you read through, you should take the time now to just write them down. Write them down on a sheet of paper, and your notes, and that way in the future when you see them, it could become a sight word that you don't have to stumble over. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and read it straight through. You see, read it straight through, and then I'm gonna I'm gonna read it straight through, and then I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna break it down phrase by phrase. So Wayatha Aharon Ath Ya Salaki Ya Al Mayumya Watazarium Watha'al Ha Taza Salaki Ha Taza Paradai Watakath As Salaki Watakas Ath Arataza Ha Matazarium. All right. So let's break this down phrase by phrase. All right, real quick, do another mic check. As I said, I turned my camera off because we've been having some camera issues. I don't know what's going on, but just for the sake of the class, okay, we all good. All right. All right. So I'm gonna go to the first phrase. All right, and again, if there's any, so during this breakdown, right, as we read it in Bible Hub, we're just going to be applying things that we've seen during the lessons that we've done in the past. So in the past, for the past couple years, we've been doing specific lessons that's tailored to specific topics so that you can understand these concepts. So when you see them, in the language or in practical application, then you could be able to identify them and use them. You know what I mean? So we've done pretty much every, or not every, but we've done a decent amount of topics, and to the point where you should have if you've been, in classes, if you've been in classes and all of that for the past couple months at least, up to the past couple years, you should have a pretty decent grasp on the Lashawan Qadash. Now, there are some topics that we haven't touched on yet. You know what I mean? So there might be some things that we come up on in class that we haven't gone over, that we have to do another lesson of a specific lesson on the whiteboard. But for the most part, with what we've already gone over, you should have a pretty decent grasp on the Lashawan Qadash. Now, if there's anything that you don't have a decent grasp on, then you could just stop. You could just, put your question in the chat and just ask. Just ask whatever question that you got, and then we'll stop. I'll stop the class and I'll go back and go over whatever you need me to go over. I'll go over it in however much detail you need me to go over it in, or whatever the case is. So that you can actually understand and you can get up to speed. All right. But but until we see questions or anything like that, then we just gonna keep doing what we've been doing, and just applying what we've already learned and reading in real time in the Lashawan Qadash. All right, so that's what I'm gonna be doing. I'm gonna just be going phrase by phrase and pointing out each concept. All right, starting with the first one. So Wayatha. Now you'll notice that I pronounced it Wayatha, right? And that's why I said earlier, this Salakia, this highlighted portion, it can be helpful sometimes to help you be able to pronounce phrases. It might be helpful at first when you're not really familiar with the characters and their sounds and all of that, and you're trying to fumble through it, especially during Sabbath service when you read it live. But it's not gonna always. Sometimes it could help you, and sometimes it can hurt you. So you really gotta have that foundation first. And this is a prime example. So it says wayet up here. That's absolutely incorrect. And we, as we know, you know what I mean, from past classes, typically in most words, there are some exceptions, but in most words, you'll say, you'll pronounce the first two characters by themselves. So you'll say the character name. So wa, ya, and then you'll pronounce the last two characters together. So the first character, you pronounce wa with that ah sound in the middle. And then that ya and tha, you usually will pronounce together. So what you will want to do is read it wayath, right? That's what you will want to do, wayath. But that's not correct. It's not correct. And we're going to find out why that's not correct. All right. Because this is the different concept. And I'm gonna go ahead and break it down. All right. So you click on this concordance code. And this is also why, Slakia, not to be too long-winded, but this is also why it's important to be in Lashawan Qadash class so that you can get these gems, so that you can see things like that. Because during Sabbath service, you might not be able to see it because you're just reading through it. So you might end up pronouncing something incorrectly. But this is where Friday night Lashawan Qadash class is where you come to learn. Saturday Sabbath service is where you practice, or where you put it into practice, where you apply it. All right. So the root word here is nata. Nata. All right. The root word is nata, which means to stretch out, extend, spread, incline, bend. All right. So nata is the root word. But what you see here is wayatha. All right. So you pronounce that it's like you pronounce it tha. You pronounce the tha and you pronounce it all the way because the root word has a ha at the end. So the root word is nata with a ha at the end. So it's not. It doesn't end with the ta. It doesn't end with a ta. The ta is in the middle. So that's why you would pronounce the whole thing, right? But you might notice that the root word is nata, but here you don't see a na. You see wa yata, right? And this is why. Any character, and this you should probably write, if you don't have it already, you should write this down in your notes. A root word that starts with a na, when you add prepositions to a root word that starts with a na, the prepositions replaces the na, right? A common example that we see often is in the word nathun, right? Which means to give. If you want to say gift, you add a ma to the front and that ma replaces the na. So nathun becomes mathun, which means gift. If you want to say to allow or permit, you replace that na again with the ya instead. So instead of saying nathun, you say yathun, which means to allow or to permit. All right. So again, character or root words that start with a na, when you add a preposition to it at the beginning, that preposition, instead of just adding it to the beginning of the word, it replaces that na. That's how words with na work. I mean, specifically why that is, I'm not sure. I would have to ask. But that's just the concept. And you can see the same thing with yas, words that start with ya as well. I believe we might see some examples tonight, but just let's for now we'll just focus on the na, right? Now this wa and ya are, you know what I mean, you'll see these often. So like when a story's being told, or the records rather, because these aren't stories, these are history, these are historical records that we read. So when the record is being recorded and, you know what I mean, regurgitated through writing or through speaking, right? You'll see, and he did this, and he did that, and he did this. So you'll see waya, right? Right. And so those are two prepositions that mean and he. right? And then the root word again is natha, or it's like in nata, right? But this ya replaces the na. So instead of saying waya nata, it's wayata, right? That's what that's about on that first phrase. All right. Next phrase, Aharon. That's how you say Aaron in the Hebrew. All right, let's see what this means. What is, can't remember. Let me see if I can remember what Aharon means. Salakia. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's like I can't remember off the top of my head. So I don't want to make anything up. But that's how you pronounce his name in the Hebrew, Aharon. Right. Ath, right? Ath is just how you would connect one thing to another, right? So the word or the phrase Ath, because if you click the concordance code, it'll say that it's not typically translated, used as a direct object marker. All right. So it just connects one thing to another, or it denotes closeness. It shows one thing is close related to another. All right. So this is talking about is that Ath is joining Aaron to his hand and what he's doing with his hand. All right. So Salakia. So Wayata Aharon Ath Yad Wa. So Yad, moving on to the next phrase, Yad is the root word. Should be a sight word as well. So I'm not gonna bother clicking on the concordance code. As a matter of fact, I'll click on it just for teaching's sake. But Yad means hand. I mean, Yad means hand. Yad is the root word. Should be a sight word. Should be a word that we familiar with. And then that just leaves the possessive at the end. Wa at the end of a word is a possessive that means he, his, or it. So his hand. So stretched out Aaron, his hand, right? That's what we got so far. Isle, another sight word, which means over. You see that in the red, so I'm not gonna bother clicking on the concordance code. But if you're watching online, and if you're using a laptop, sometimes you could just, for time's sake, you could just hover over the concordance code if you're not sure about something. You can hover over the concordance code, and the Strong's Hebrew breakdown will show up. Strong's Hebrew breakdown will show up over the, over the concordance code or underneath Salakia. What al means over should be another sight word because I believe it's in the sister salute, Yahweh Shemar al over you, Yahweh watch over you. You know what I mean? It's in a lot of the prayers, Psalms 83. Things like that is something that we see often in the scriptures as well. All right. And then Slakia. So Mayum Ya. This is important. This is another concept that you might not be familiar with, but it's important for you to understand. All right. Something that we see often as well. So we're gonna start with the root word, right? You see, I got the character at the end highlighted, right? I'm gonna hover over that concordance code, and it'll tell you that mayum means water. Mayum should be another sight word that you should know off the top. You know what I mean? Genesis, the first chapter, it talks about the creation of the earth. So that's another book chapter. That's another book and chapter. So like it's another book and chapter that has a lot of, good sight words for you. And it's a root word that's built or that helps build other words. So yum is the word for sea. Mayum is from the sea, or water, because water is from the sea. So mayum, and then shamayum is pertaining to water. Shamayum or heaven. right? So mayim is a root word for a lot of other words, right? So it should be, again, it should be a sight word that you're already familiar with. Mayim means water. So now that just leaves this character at the end, yeah. So why we go from mayim to mayim yeah, all right? That ya at the end, it can mean several things. So ya at the end means salakia. It means me or my, or it could just be used to show ownership. All right. And you see it often at the end of nations. At the end of nations. So for example, Israel is Yasharala. Israelite is Yasharala Ya. You know what I mean? Uh Egyptian, right? So Egypt is Matazarium. I believe Egyptian is Matazarium Ya, right? What else? Hamite. Uh, you know what I mean? Naphtha, or you know what I mean? Fill in the blank with any nation. You know what I mean? Uh, you fill in the blank with any nation. You add a ya to it, it just shows possession or shows ownership. All right. So you'll see that ya at the end. You'll see that ya at the end of you know what I mean? That's what that ya at the end means. If it doesn't mean me or mine, right? And the reason why is behind this mayum is because it's talking about specific waters. Over Aaron stretched his hand over the waters. What waters? Of Egypt, right? So these waters are the possession of Egypt, so to speak, just to give you the understanding of what this Yah at the end is doing. All right. And then Egypt, of course, is Matazarium. Matazarium should be familiar. I mean, something again we should be familiar with, especially with Psalms 83, with of course Exodus. You know what I mean? Even in the Genesis, the last couple the chapters of Genesis, because we spent a lot of time in Egypt or talking about Egypt at the end with Joseph, especially when Joseph was you know what I mean, sold into captivity and he ended up in Egypt. The word Montazarium is all through, you know what I mean, the last couple chapters or the last couple chapters of Genesis, and is certainly all through Exodus. All right, because that's what Exodus is all about. Next phrase, wa tha'il, right? So like wa tha'ila. All right. And so like 1 second. So wa is a preposition that means and. Tha means thou or thee. Il or ila means to come up or over, to go up, to ascend, to climb, to bring up, to offer. All right. And ha tazaparadai. See what this word means, because it's not some of these words we don't see often, right? So tazaparadai means a marsh leaper frog. That's crazy. Well, frog. You know what I mean? Long story short. So tazaparadai is the root word, right? Now, again, if you're familiar with the Hebrew, if you've been in class, if you've been, you know what I mean, if you've been keeping up with your notes and all of that, you know that typically root words have 2 to 3 characters, but this one has 1, 2, 3. It's lucky. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 characters. You know what I mean, which is again there's general rules that you can follow to help you. You know what I mean? There's general rules that you can follow to help you uh understand. What the so lock you. So lock you. Give me 1 second. So lock you. Uh Mike. So lock you. Where is he at? Oh, 1 second. Bear with me, Salakia. Salakia. Mike. Mike. Salakia for that. But yeah, so if you've been keeping up with your notes, there are some rules that you can use in general to help you you know, be able to recognize things better, but there tend to be some exceptions. You know what I mean, like we see in here. So those what's it called? Those rules that we quote unquote that we go by. You know what I mean? They're like training wheels. They help you be able to understand the language and in general, but you know what I mean, you don't want to be too rigid with the you know what I mean, you don't want to be too rigid with it. Remember, this is a Black, Hispanic, and Native American language, and we tend to, you know what I mean, we tend to bend the rules all the time. You know what I mean, with any language that we speak. So, I mean, this is our language, so you know it's gonna be some. There's a lot of slang in our language. There's a lot of poetry. There's a lot of shortening and abbreviation. Like you keep hearing me say, you know what I mean. You know, I'm talking about things like that instead of saying, "Do you know what I'm talking about?" or "Do you know what I mean?" We kind of merge words together just for efficiency. The same thing is with the Lashawan Qadash. And you know what I mean? Just like there are exceptions to like rules on how we talk to one another or rules on how we use certain words or certain languages, there's exceptions as well in the Lashawan Qadash. Not very many. It's not as many as the English language where, you know what I mean, they don't even have they'll teach you a rule and then you know what I mean? In third grade, they'll teach you a rule, and then fourth grade, they teach you that rule is, you know what I mean? That rule isn't a rule, and you know what I mean? How often you got to break that rule? You know what I mean? But so it's not as complicated as the English language, but there are certain exceptions, and that's what you see here. So this long story short, this character has five, or Salaki, this root word has five characters. Taza Paradai, right? Taza Parad Taza Paradai, right? Frog. And then ha is just a preposition that means the. So the frog, right? Ha Taza Paradai, right? And
if I'm just another example, Salakia, and I kind of want to comb through. I know it might be tedious. You might want to get through this verse. You might want to just get straight through it. But I want to comb through every nuance and every exception and every you know what I mean, every exception and every rule that we come into, because I just, you know what I mean, this is class. I want you to understand every part, right? But this is another thing to note as well. In the Tazaparadai is singular frog, one frog, right? Now, typically when you want to say plural, or when you know make a root word plural, you add yum to it or wath. You know what I mean? In some cases, right? Wath would be an example of an irregular plural, and sometimes you don't add anything at all. Like for the word we just read earlier, water, mayum. Uh, that word can be singular and plural. So water, mayum, and waters, mayum, same thing. Same with heaven, shamayim, heaven, right? Shamayim, heavens, right? So and this is another example from what it looks like. It looks like it's another example of that as well, where so like you looks like another example of that as well, where this is a singular word, tazaparadai is frog singular and is frog plural as well. Frogs, right? So you don't have to add a yum as well. And it makes sense why not, because it's already 5 characters long. So tazaparadai is already a long word, 5 characters. You add a yum, now you just added 2 characters to an already long word, right? So I can only assume that's why. Uh, but you know what I mean. I don't see a yum here, so I'm gonna assume that this is a irregular plural in the case where you don't have to add a yum to it to make it plural. All right, we'll get to these last couple. Bye. All right, Salakia, are we gonna get through the last couple? Right. So watakas. Right. I believe we've seen this word in the past. But we're gonna click this concordance code anyway. All right. Kasa. All right. So Salakia. So this will be pronounced watakasa. All right. Watakasa. All right. Kasa is the root word which means to cover. Right. Right. Means to cover. Cover, to conceal, to hide, to clothe. Right. And then so that just leaves wa and tha. All right. Wa, like we've seen in the past. Wa is a preposition, means and. Tha means thou or thee. Because remember, this is the Lord doing this, right? So he's using Aaron as he's using Aaron and Moses to do these things, but it's the Lord doing it. So, and thou cover, right? Right. Basically talking about what the Lord is doing with these frogs. So the Lord is using these frogs to cover, right? Let's see what he's covering, right? So wata kasa, and thou covered. Ath. Remember that ath just shows proximity, shows a relation from one thing to another. It just shows one thing is close to another thing. So, or closely related to another thing. So the land and the frogs is what's being, or the frogs that's covering the earth, right? So wata kasa ath arataza, right? Arataza should be a root word. What's it called? A sight word. should be a sight word that we all familiar with. Aratazah, we use it often. You know what I mean? Genesis, the first chapter, Genesis, the second, all through through the scriptures. I mean, I can't think of any book, chapter, or verse that doesn't, or I can't think of any book or chapter that doesn't have the word Aratazah in it, because that's the setting of, you know what I mean? That's the setting of much of the Bible, or the what's the word? Yeah, the setting of the Bible, which is where the story is taking place. So the land, you know what I mean? The where, you know what I mean? It's some land, the land of Egypt, the land of Canaan, the land of, you know what I mean, Israel, the land of, you know what I mean, the earth. You know what I mean? So Aratazah means land and it also means earth, right? You just for, you know what I mean, teaching purposes, click on our concordance code and say earth, land, ground, country, territory. All right. And then last word, Matazarium. We already know Matazarium means Egypt. We just clicked the concordance code earlier in the verse up here, up top, meant Egypt there. And then you also see in the red it says Egypt. So Matazarium, Egypt. All right. So Lord willing, what we just went through, Lord willing, what we just went through gave you know what I mean, was able to give a lot of, not only, you know what I mean, be a little bit of review for brothers and sisters, you know what I mean, to be able to apply what we've been going over in the past, but also give a little insight on how to use Bible Hub, how to use these resources that's in Bible Hub, and remind ourselves of, you know what I mean, some concepts that are lesser known, like the irregular plural, or the root words that start with na, things like that. What else? I think it was one other thing. Uh can't remember off the top of my head. Or the ya at the end of something that's showing possession, things like that. But uh but that's the whole point. Like, you know what I mean, you show up to the Lashawan Qadash class, you'll be able to practice in depth. You know what I mean? Sometimes when you're learning a thing, like, it's best to just kind of look at the surface so that you can get the concept in general. And we just learn the concept in general, learn what this is about, learn the basic fundamental concepts that make up this topic. But then once you learn those things, then it's good to dive deeper and then be able to get a deeper understanding. All right. And you know what I mean? So that's why it's important to come to class. It's important to, you know what I mean, read the Lashawan Qadash and Bible Hub on your own, and just go through it, comb through it. And so that way, especially as a priest, you know what I mean, when you expected to come up and read the Lashawan Qadash yourself live in front of the nation, then you can be more prepared and you can be more efficient and, you know, be quicker. So we ain't got to be here all day fumbling through the Lashawan Qadash, or you don't have to, you know, be up here embarrassed or nervous or intimidated by the Lashawan Qadash. You could be 100% prepared. All right. But with that, we're gonna go ahead and end it right there. Again, make sure you like, share, subscribe to the channel. Salaki for the technical issues. We're gonna be fixing those here shortly. But nonetheless, I pray that, you know what I mean, brothers and sisters were still able to learn and, you know what I mean, add something to their belt tonight. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. You know, make sure you prepare your questions. And if you're not watching live or whatever the case is, you might be watching this after we close the stream, or maybe days, weeks, or years from now, whatever the case is. You can always hit that concordance, it's like not concordance code, that QR code that you see in the top. I believe it might be your top left corner. You hit that QR code, and that'll bring you to a WhatsApp chat where it'll be brothers. It'll be priests in there morning, noon, and night to answer all your questions and solve all your problems, give you more information outside of the school hours. But with that, go ahead and say Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua Barakathum to all the brothers. And shalom, Yahweh Shamar Lathan, by Hashem, Yahweh, shout all the sisters.